live.
We might be live. You never know.
Oh,
Hello,
now it's
Bill.
live. Good morning,
Yeah,
Bill. How are you?
because everything that the notification tells us is true. So we weren't live till that second.
Oh man. If you missed it, guys, I made a sweet comment about not being able to see Jake because he's wearing a camo vest. Look at him. Look, I mean, it's just a head moving around over there. It's crazy. I'm kind of surprised that he even shows up on the green screen.
That is a decent point actually, because there's green spots in there. Just a mix of urban versus traditional camo.
Urban camo. How was yesterday, Bill?
Yesterday was good. It was busy. Um, what in the world?
What?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's more Facebook changing things. That's all.
Okay.
I was busy yesterday. Got all my work done. I got done at 4:30. Got my movement done. Got my ask done. It was good. It was a good day. How about you?
We had a really good chat here yesterday, and then at some point during the day, I started to feel anxious and I couldn't really figure out why. And then I knew exactly why, right? I had been kind of paring down my networking and my prospecting and stuff like this because I had a couple of projects that were about to kick off. And so yesterday I looked at my calendar for the week and, it had all the normal stuff on there, right? Which is, I think for most people would be probably a lot, but compared to like the past couple of weeks of the amount of meetings and conversations, that I'd been having on the calendar, having that lack was, oh my God, oh no, right? So not being like a people driven person, right? Like it's not my default to want to go out and prospect a whole bunch and set a bunch of meetings and stuff like this. Like I like meeting with people that I know, but this constant newness kind of drains my batteries. So it's kind of a testament, I think, to how much work I've done around like my behaviors and like shifting my mindset to like these are the things that must get done each week, that I look at my calendar yesterday and I have this moment of weirdness, and then later it just kind of built and built and built and built and built. I don't normally meditate during the week just because there's just not really enough time after all the journaling and the work and family time and stuff. For those who think that that's a BS comment, I journal twice a day, so it's roughly kind of the same mental exercise. It's just a different like mechanism to get there. So I don't typically sit, but I was so scattered after eating dinner and everything last night that I just like needed to. So I went and sat for about 30 minutes. Still felt weird, and then went to bed, and thankfully it didn't really show up there or anything. But I still have a little bit of it today, so I'm just gonna
Hmm.
kind of work my way through that.
So, are you sure that's the thing, or is that just your guess right now? Basically,
You
you still
know,
have.
yeah, I still have it, right? It's just kind of this, you know, hold on. Should I share my screen? Like
Sure.
just to show, right? Because I think that once you see this thing, you gotta allow me to share my screen there, Bill.
Okay.
Um, all right. So here's how I normally schedule my days for people who are curious about it. Share my screen. Here's my calendar. All right. So this is like my week this week, right? I normally block out my mornings so that way I can do stuff in here. It's got role sales lab. I'm being interviewed today in a Facebook group. So this I think would, if you don't live out of your calendar, then this would be this would seem like a lot. Okay, but when we go back and we look at last week, right? So there's a lot more in there. And the week before had a lot more in there, right? So what happens is you just get used to anything, right? So I've been having lots of weeks like this where like they're very full, and we've been talking about them here. And so then going from this, which is a very full week, to this, it just kind of triggers this thing of like, oh no, what am I not doing, kind of deal. And I think that's important to talk about because I'm not the only person who experiences this like at all, right? And I think a lot of people could be experiencing something like this and not even realize that it's a perceived lack of activity, right? That kind of causes some anxiousness. because like as a salesperson, right, which is kind of like my bread and butter, right? Like I run a business and I'm in these projects and everything like this, but at the heart of it, I'm still a salesperson, right? So the idea that I don't have a lot of meetings on the books for this week after being in this role and doing these things for so long is okay. What am I doing then? Kind of deal.
So you think it's connected to the fact that you've been so used to filling your week up that by not having a full week, you're doing something wrong, or there's
Yeah.
something that
Mm-hmm.
you're letting yourself down, or you're not on pace for
Absolutely.
your goals, or
Yeah, it feels like complacency, like right there in the moment.
Interesting. Let's see. Michelle says good morning.
Good morning, Michelle.
Hey, Gabriel, what's going on, man?
Good morning, Gabe.
Good morning, Levi.
Levi, good morning, sir.
Levi says, where's the gratitude for that space opening up on the calendar while the weather's so nice?
You know, Levi, that's a great question. And honestly, that's been how I've been trying to frame it, right? Of taking the high road of like, hey, look, just because you're busy doesn't mean you're productive. Just because you've got lots of meetings doesn't mean that they're the right kind of meetings.
Right.
And this drop off has been kind of like in process for the past couple of weeks because there were some fairly big projects coming my way that have kind of stalled because there's multiple decision makers and I don't get all the control. So it is tied to that for sure. I'm not saying that it's not, right?
I feel like it's more tied to that.
Well, the thing about it is like I'm very well aware of the fact that when you stop networking and stop prospecting, it takes a while to spin that momentum up again, right? So part of it is seeing how quickly it faded, right, and having that realization again, and then also the effort that it takes to like spin that back up and getting back consistent isn't a lot, but it takes time. I think is really the thing. So.
See, but knowing that you're really good at networking, it's not like a lot of effort for you to spin that back up. It has to happen again, right? You just pull the levers again. Sure. Yeah. To me, it feels more like, because, you talk about on the show, building things up and then getting disappointed that you're working on. Because that's something I think we all have issues with to some degree or another. And this one is a pretty big one as far as amount of time, amount of potential revenue, amount of, all sorts of things like that. So the fact that it's delayed, and the longer it delays, for me, the longer it delays, I would personally feel like the more likely it is to go away.
Oh yeah.
So there could be anxiety. To me, that would be a much bigger anxiety producer than, blank spots in your calendar. Which I'm not saying you're saying the blank spots are the anxiety. It's what they represent.
For sure. Yeah. It's I should be able to look at that and be like, oh, it's going to be super easy to be done at 4:15 every day, right? Which I was done at 4:15 yesterday. But in the very bottom pit of my stomach, right? I've been living essentially a life that the only value is the amount of meetings that I can get and turn into like revenue, right? So, it's just this idea of all that stuff is gone. So now what am I going to do, right?
John's value is not based on how many sales meetings he has.
Exactly right.
There's your affirmation. That's exactly the one you got to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get that.
It's difference, right, is really kind of the main thing, right? And we build ourselves up and we have these expectations about how things are going to go. And then the minute that they don't go according to that plan, then, anxiety hits, frustration hits, entitlement hits, and all these things. And I'm currently feeling some frustration because I know that when my calendars look like this, it's hard for me to make the money that I want to make. So there's really kind of there's a if then kind of statement in there somewhere.
Yeah. There's always one for sure. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. So yesterday you had, I didn't look at your calendar yesterday. You had a pretty full day yesterday, right?
I had my deep work session. I had a session with the real estate mastermind guys, coaching call with Brandon, and a coaching call with Forrest, and then a website support call for one of our real estate clients.
Okay. So busy for a normal person.
Man, I don't even like that statement. It feels so pretentious. I mean, it's less than what I'm used to, so it feels like nothing, right?
Oh, thanks, Phil.
yeah, 30 pounds is a lot until like you're working out with 75 pounds, right? And then you go back to 30 pounds and it's like, oh, I have to do 1,000 of these. Okay,
Right.
it's that same kind of thing, as pretentious as that sounds.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I've got the problem the other way. I was like, because I'm not lazy. I work a lot. I work too much, a lot of times. But I want to reduce. It's a game to me to figure out how little I can do to create large amounts of results. Like there's this efficiency lever in me that's always working to a fault sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I see that and I'm like, oh, cool, maybe he's getting more efficient. Maybe it's just the amount of time he has to spend to get the same results.
No.
Which that's always my goal. That's always where I want to be.
I mean, but when you're that should be the goal, right? I agree with you, right? If your goal is to have more time and not live to work, which isn't my goal either, then yeah, you have to be thinking like that. But like when you're in the middle of it, right? And this has been said so many times, it's like cliche, and the fact that I'm saying it's cliche is also cliche. But like when you're working in your business, you're not working on your business, and you essentially, as Al has talked about it, is you have created a job around yourself. Which, if that's your goal, that's not bad, but that's not the same thing as like running and having a business, that can run without you having your fingers on all the dials all the time, stuff like that. And when I hit these moments, I think that maybe that's the frustration. Really, is that all those other weeks when I've got all those meetings, I'm just like working in the business, right? I'm having the conversations, I'm doing the behaviors, I'm doing my activities and stuff. And so then when I hit a week like this where it's like scaled back, it's like, oh, okay, like I can fill this time with work and projects. I have no problem doing that. It'll seamlessly happen. But it's also this kind of thing of like, the shift in direction just takes a couple of days, I guess, for me to wrap my head around it.
Yes. I mean, I guess the question is, do you want to work on your business right now since you have this time as part of that, spare stuff that you have, or do you want to fill it with more stuff in the business so that you can feel busy, and not feel the anxiety?
Well, that's a good point, because it's as a salesperson, right? The conversations are how I get paid, right? They're how I grow my business. They're how I do all these things that I'm working on and connected to, right? So it's directly related to those meetings. So on some level, and this might be head trash, I can't work on my business without having those kinds of conversations.
Right. You need both until you have other people doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have to do those. But in times like this, you also have the opportunity to also do on the business stuff, not just in the business stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I was going with it, because you
Yeah.
obviously you have to have those conversations to make money.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you have 6 hours on your calendar this week that are free or whatever, not calendar blocked, use 2 of them to work on the business, because then you're that much closer to only working on the business the next time this comes around.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
I think that's like when you're doing business planning versus work planning, if that makes sense. Business planning is a different animal, right? Than work planning. And most of us, even the people who are really, really good at building business, have a tendency to fall into doing the stuff they like to do versus doing the stuff that's going to make the business grow, which is the working on the business stuff. And so unless you time block that stuff into your calendar, it doesn't get done, worse than a lot of even other things. Because if we don't naturally go, hey, I need to go do these 2 tasks that are not going to make me any money, but in the future, they're going to make it where I don't have to work as much to make money.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's like whatchamacallit, E-Myth, right? Everyone who's read E-Myth goes, oh yeah, duh. And then they go, okay, back to work.
Yeah, I mean, it's really funny because when I started Adaptive Growth, I was going to network for other people, right? So like you could pay me a retainer, I would network for you, I'd make lots of introductions. You would also get the list of all the meetings that I had, which I still think is a solid business idea, right? If you really like networking and you want to create this job around yourself, because there's lots of people who are terrible at networking, who are terrible at introductions, and would love to have someone else do it for them. CPAs can't network for like 2 big periods of the year. So there's your very first client. If you like to network, go find a CPA firm and network for them. So I was going to do that. I was going to do some like fractional sales management stuff. And then I was also going to do the CRM builds. And then I read that book and it broke my head. And I was like, man, no one's going to let anybody else network for them under me. So I went and fired those clients, right? I had about 5 clients and I was like, hey, I can't do this for you anymore. And they said, why? And I told them why. And they were like, well, okay, so what do we do? And I was like, well, I'll show you how we network, I guess.
Yeah.
And then like the fractional sales manager thing, like once again, that was going to be tied to me, so it needed to go. And so then it was just the CRMs, right, and the sales process stuff. And then like COVID hits, and I shift to doing these closer setups for like agency owners and stuff like this. And once again, I'm in that spot where I'm the only guy who's going to be able to do that job easily, and I'm also working in a market to where the level of knowledge is so high, like I have to like operate in my like A+ game kind of deal. So it's kind of like, yeah, so I had recreated it around myself at a moment of not peril, right, but of
Yeah, I know what you mean.
of difficulty, and so now it's like, okay, I need to work my way back out of that again, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a huge part of what I've been working on this year is systems that can work without me or largely without me, because I have such a huge tendency to do the exact same thing. Because I love just like you, I love the work I do. But if I ever want to, it's because I'm not doing this to get out of work, right? Just like you're saying, like I'm not living to work. And actually, the older I get, the more I kind of like the idea of only working on projects that I really like. And so if I don't have systems going making me money, I don't have that option, you know. So it's become a different reason for me to create these systems, not so I can be Tim Ferriss, and be like, oh, my business works in 2.6 hours. Oh, it's yours. You know, it's much different. It's like, no, I want to literally have the luxury where I can only work on 2 projects a month if I want, because that's the ones I actually really want to work on. Because I love, X, Y, and Z about it. And I'm still making money. And I'm still pursuing other ideas. And I have, it's options. So it's options. I can go choose what I work on. And I don't know why that hit me so big this year. It just did hit me like a lightning bolt, though. It was like, I say I want to do this thing, and I have a couple big ideas for things I want to build, but I can't do it very well, or at the speed I want to do that. Maybe that's the better, until I get this other stuff taken care of.
Yeah. Random kind of off-topic question for you, right? Because like we both have been fans of Tim Ferriss in the past at different levels, at different times on different levels. I don't know where you are on him currently, but like, do you think that the Tim Ferriss effect on the 4-hour work week has like had a net positive on like entrepreneurship, or do you think it's a net negative?
So it's like kind of a trap question a little bit, because I want to say both, not because I'm fence straddling. Because I think for the right people, it had the net positive. I think overall is kind of the answer you're looking for as a whole.
Yeah.
I think it fed the net negative of Silicon Valley and just building companies for IPO and for sell-offs, and just building things to say that you built them and show off and flex. And because I think for the right people, the lesson learned there is the same one as the E-Myth. Like if you want a business, you have to build systems, and here's how I did it. And you can even really, through a website, he did it so lean that that's where you get the title, right?
Yeah. So when I look at a lot of like entrepreneurship stuff now, and like all of this terrible lifestyle marketing that just like, oh my God, it goes all over me.
Garbage.
Who do you think is the proponent for like the big broy like entrepreneur marketing movement?
That's tough because huh?
Is it Ty Lopez?
Oh yeah, I mean he's definitely up there. I block so much of that off my feed and my email list that I don't even know who they are anymore. Like I really don't. I don't. They're gone from my largely.
You know what I love more than
this? Well, even Grant Cardone has that vibe to me. Like,
oh yeah, I'm not a fan of his either.
I don't like Grant Cardone at almost anything he does. You can't avoid him. I've even blocked him from a lot of different places, and he still shows up places. So it's like,
And it's crazy because I talk to people and they're like, "Who's Grant Cardone?" I'm like, "How do you not know?" It's not
Yeah.
like a. I'm not trying to be like a business hipster, and you're supposed to know everybody. I supposed to know, but like Gary,
Or
like Gary V, Grant Cardone, Ty Lopez, Tim Ferriss, like these guys are huge. Like they're like these are names that come up in every comment thread of like, "Hey, who do you follow?" Like across the
yeah, that'd
board.
be like saying you don't know who Tony Robbins is almost. He's just got more years on him.
Yeah, yeah, and it's crazy because I feel like the Ty Lopez thing is pretty bad. The Grant Cardone thing, I think, just gets misinterpreted. Like a lot of people like give him this idea that he's like, or that he's a very good salesperson. I don't think he's a very good salesperson. I think he's a good real estate marketer. I don't think he's a great salesperson. And I know he goes around and he talks to sales teams and stuff like that, but there's a big difference between being motivational and being a person who can actually like go out and get it done in the trenches.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
he has
if
a personality and a
yeah,
speaker, and like he's good at those things.
yeah, if that I don't think that that guy would know how to like run a pipeline and manage a pipeline outside of his like initial audience in a market that he's like unfamiliar with. So
Maybe he's definitely not a sales trainer, that's for sure.
yeah,
He
for
might
sure.
be able to sell really well. It's just that he's all covered in all this BS that it's almost hard to tell,
That's fair.
because a
Yeah.
guy that has that much money that's made that much in real estate, because real estate's a pretty translatable thing, I think, when it comes, because if you can create an atmosphere and where someone will buy or sell a home with you, and amass that much fortune and created as many, because he has systems and stuff too. I mean, he's not.
Yeah.
It's not like he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just,
No.
I don't like his brand and his.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of his brand at all. I've not read any of his books. I don't understand the whole Papa G, Uncle G thing that goes around. What are you laughing at? Comment.
Yeah, Gabriel says, is that a 10x dislike?
Yep.
Uh,
You know.
nope,
Uh,
nope.
so yeah, there's and I think there's like a documentary being made, or I saw it somewhere about like all these like gurus and all these people and stuff like
God, that
that.
would be good. That would be really good, especially if they do it right.
Yeah.
And you know what? Here's my disclaimer. I think every single guru has something they do well. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had success. So there's
Yeah.
something they do
Agree
well.
with that.
Problem is they all take this template. Like, for example, somebody who's grown on me. He's on Facebook all the time. Ads. He's a. Oh my gosh, am I going to be able to think of who he is? But he's kind of corny. But his copy and his scripting for his Facebook ads is really good. It's
Hmm.
it's copywriting 101. It just so happens that he kind of when he came on the scene, he had the cars and the money he was throwing. He was like yelling at people and like somebody the sales guy, or somebody the sales king, or somebody sales anyway. But I've grown to like him because his ads have gotten a little bit more docile and focused in more on the concepts and the pain points, and he still does it big time. But he, for example, knows sales psychology. You can tell by the way his ads run and stuff.
Hmm.
Still don't like his personal style. So all that to say is Grant Cardone's probably good at something. Ty Lopez is probably good at something.
Yeah.
Just not my
Absolutely.
preference. Don't speak
Yeah.
to me.
I would agree. So who do you really like then? Right? So now that we've kind of shit all over all the people we don't like.
There's a guy named Noah. I think you know him. Uh,
Yeah. Big
Seth
fans of
Godin's
Mr.
like
Kagan.
Seth Godin's my granddaddy. He's always my go-to. I like his style personally. For me, I'm not saying he's the best of everyone. I'm just saying I personally connect with Seth because he's really laid back, and he tries to share wisdom. And his courses that I've taken and his books that I've read have all like blown my mind every time I've read them. Um, I like Noah Kagan a whole lot. But you know what though? I'm kind of in a non-guru phase of my life at the moment. I love Donald Miller because obviously I'm tied into story brands.
Yep.
But like once again, like I'm same thing. Remember this year I said I'm not gonna go and try and
Read a
read
whole
50
lot.
100
Yeah.
books. Read 5 books only, and like a commit to only reading 5 books and reread them and most apply them. That was my big goal this year, was apply the books that I read, the 5 that I read. So I'm at kind of the same phase with gurus. Like
What?
I want to apply all this stuff I've learned.
Yeah. So have you already read your 5 books for the year?
Yeah, I've read them all twice at this point.
Okay. So obviously Awesome is one of them because we've talked a lot about that.
Actually, it wasn't. That snuck in
Okay.
because of a work need. So I've read probably 14 books this year, but it's because it's been like, hey, I need to know more about this thing because of this thing I'm doing right here. So I'm gonna
Okay.
go read this book.
So
It's
for your
like,
development track, you picked 5 books, but like
yeah,
as work needs and stuff like that comes up.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So
Okay.
I picked like one physical one, two spiritual ones, and two work entrepreneurial ones. So it kind of had a breadth and kind of go a little bit in each. And I'd read every single one of them before. There were no brand new books, but they were old books that I either hadn't read in like 10 years or
Mhm.
blew my mind 2 years ago, and I didn't need to read them again, some sort of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah, I actually did a post I think on Instagram about it towards the beginning of the year, and it got some interesting activity on it.
I normally read like historically a lot of science fiction and fantasy is my kind of like go-to for entertainment, and then I realized that this year I haven't read any of that stuff. So I finished a book on the Kindle and then hopped into a fantasy book, and now I'm like 25 or 30 pages into this thing, and I'm like, I think I've read this before. And
Huh.
like I don't know if I've actually read it before because the author's not new to me, and I love his stuff, but like maybe it's just too close, or maybe it's I've been out of that stuff for so long that now when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is all the same thing. I don't know.
Mhm.
It's kind of interesting.
Possible.
I did put in some mileage on Stillness is the Key yesterday, and it is blowing my mind. Like really, really,
Yeah,
really enjoying it.
yeah. I want to borrow that one when you get done with it.
I will buy you one, sir, but you can't have mine. How about that?
Okay, fair. uh, okay. Let's see. There's
What
something
do you
else.
got today, Bill?
Yeah. Well, I've got. Let's see. I've actually got a pretty full day. It's been a heavy client work, couple, 2, 3 weeks now. So I'm writing a sales funnel for another client today. We're creating a workbook for one of the activities we take clients through so that they can actually work on it like without us,
Nice.
like after we leave. So we're creating like a cool and designing it out, stuff like that. So I'm writing copy for the workbook today. And then I've got 3 different meetings, one client meeting. I had a client meeting rescheduled yesterday. Well, maybe we can talk about that another day because that was an interesting phone call. And then, yeah, I'll be done at 4:30.
Nice.
How about you?
I have my deep work session, which I'm going to get into, mastermind group meeting, and then I'm being interviewed in a Facebook group later on today. It's a LinkedIn focused prospecting group, and so these guys kind of kill it for their clients, and so they're like, okay, what happens once you have the lead? And I'm going to go in and kind of talk about selling in there, and then I have office hours, right? So sales labs. So if you're stuck on something, want to learn how to role play something, position something, just get fresh eyes on something, or if you have an idea and you want me to rip it to shreds, because I'm pretty good at that as well, that will be today at 2. If you haven't signed up for Sales Lab, please do. I'm making some changes to it. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. But essentially, Tuesdays and Thursdays, all the sales knowledge I have is yours. Come on in. Thursdays is more practice oriented. Tuesdays is theory and like consulting kind of stuff. And then I'll be done at 4:15, which like there won't even be a struggle because my
Yeah,
because my calendar ends at 3 o'clock, and I'm
right.
just like,
I'll be mental.
I'm like, there's an hour and 15 minutes. I
Yeah,
could be having conversations during that time.
yeah, yeah. Go find one today if you want.
Yeah, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
like uh, I don't like same day scheduling. That's a
that's
whole
right.
other thing. We'll talk about that
That's
another
right.
time.
That's right. Because you're too important. You
No,
can't
that's
possibly
not
be
it.
available the same day for a phone
That's
call.
oh god. Oh, Jake.
uh,
No. I get up and I plan my day, and I like my day to run according to that schedule. That's the whole point of planning, in my opinion. I don't plan so that way whenever it doesn't go the way that I want, it can go another way. I will
yeah.
find something to do during that time, right? I've got client work and content, and I have an interesting idea for a book that I think I mentioned yesterday that I'm kind of putting some mileage in my journaling. We'll see if
Mhm.
it turns into something bigger. And then, yeah, just working through all of that.
Cool. Well, Gabriel said he liked Jay Shetty, which I like Jay Shetty, and Darman. I don't know Dar, but
I don't know
Jay's
either
a
one of
pretty
those
cool guy.
people.
You would probably dig Jay. Jay is big time now. He used to not be, but he's massive now, like Oprah big now, sort of stuff.
Oh,
So yeah, definitely check him out. But his whole thing's mindfulness, meditation, performance out of stillness. So on the track you're on, actually, he'd probably be a good compliment. So, all right, y'all. Well, I got to run.
yep. Me too.
Um,
Let's get to work.
let's go do this.
Absolutely.
All right.